Oh, yeah. Here we go. Practice acquisition. There are pitfalls throughout the entire process. If you want to buy a practice, this is how, folks.
Acquisition Unscripted. The truth when buying and selling a dental practice. And now your host, Michael Dinsio.
What's up, guys? Another episode of Dental Acquisition Unscripted. I'm jacked about today's episode because it's definitely unique. So as you guys all know, we're working through the acquisition process. We go through it and then we start back at the top and go through it, start back at the top, go through it. But today's kind of unique because I have a famous person on the other side of this that is a fellow podcaster. And some of you probably know this guy, and he's got a very successful podcast, and he's new to ownership. And I think it's going to be fun because I want to have a conversation with him today about how you guys think about these deals before and after, and even through college. And so, special guest today is Onni Franco with the Dental Student Podcast. And I guess we should unbrand you from that, Onni, because you actually are a practice owner now, so we can start saying your practice name, Onni Franco. But
yeah,
welcome to the show, man. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, man. Huge pleasure. Thanks for having me on. Listen to your episodes, and man, they've been very helpful, and definitely just appreciate you putting out that information out there for everybody to listen to.
Dude, that's what it's all about. It's we're just trying to fill you guys with some good stuff so that when you head into that closing table, you've checked a lot of boxes. And of course, we want to help you through that, but we know that we're not for everybody as far as consultants go. And, you know, we lead with a giving hand because I think that's the way this universe works is you give and it comes back. So Onni Franco, Dental Student Podcast. So, buddy, tell me a little bit about like you. Like, I want to get to know you a little bit. What's your story? Like, you obviously started this podcast before anybody else figured out how to be famous dental student podcasters. And so I just want to hear the story from you. Give me your story, man.
Yeah, man. I mean, we can go ahead. I'm born and raised in South Florida. Went to UCF in Orlando for undergrad. And then I went to University of Florida, Gainesville.
Go Gators.
Yes, sir.
I'm a Buckeye. So we'll see we'll see what happens this year.
Yeah, this year's gonna be interesting.
I'm gonna be texting you on the side.
It's gonna be interesting. And and then kind of a couple years through dental school, me, my friends Justin, Eric, and RJ were really close, and we're like, hey, listen, maybe we should do a podcast. One of the four of us, his dad is a dentist, listens to a whole bunch of dental podcasts that are out there done by dentists. And he was like, hey, listen, there's a niche for this. Maybe you should do a podcast for dental students. And at the time we were thinking about it, maybe that was after he kind of implanted that into our brains first after the first year of dental school. And, for anybody that's listening to this, that's gone through dental school, knows that the first 2 years are very tough on you. A lot of didactic courses, a lot of hand skill courses that you kind of need to master. So there's a lot going on. Yeah. And we took our boards at the end of second year and said, okay, let's go ahead and do this. We bought all the equipment. We got some advice from some people.
Expensive.
Yeah, we got some advice from some people that were doing podcasts.
Yeah.
And we're like, all right, what are we going to talk about? And we're just, just like you, just want to go ahead, put out information out there so a lot of people can access it through the touch of their phone. And we were going through a lot of leadership conferences. We were meeting a whole bunch of lecturers, dentists around the U.S. We were going on lobby days. We were very involved with ASDA and Psi Omega. And we were just like, hey, listen, we're learning so much here. Let's make this available for our classmates, essentially.
Yeah.
And other dental students around the U.S.
Love it.
And so we'd come back and we would go ahead and record all the information that we had. And we put the first one out, and we're like, wow, like I guess people, there's a place for this in the pod, because nobody was really podcasting back then. We did this back in 2018, so like it was pretty much like Joe Rogan. This is like back when he was with Apple.
Yeah, right.
And so so we were like, okay, let's go ahead and keep on doing it. And we were just now going on 5 years strong. So it's been a great time. We get to meet awesome people such as yourself. And, we're learning along the way too. We're definitely not coming from a place like, hey, we know this, we want to teach you this. It's more like we bring on guests and, we ask them a bunch of questions. We learn as well while the audience is learning through their headphones. So it's all.
That's crazy. Like, that's awesome, fun. Like, podcasting's great. It's really interesting. Like, once you're in it, like you have to commit, right? And you guys, the four of you, right? There was four in the beginning.
Yeah, it was four of us. It was Justin, Eric, RJ, and myself. So I'm definitely not taking credit, full credit for this.
Yeah, no. Yeah, it's great. I'm on your site and you can see you guys down the bottom there. So it's interesting because once you commit, like you have to keep it up. You can't just not produce an episode. And I'm thinking about that. And you guys as students had to go and find more great information. So and it wasn't really because of yourself, but it wasn't because you had to keep your program going. And so you guys are like the epitome of like that made you guys go get great information, which probably has benefited you, I'm assuming, all the way to where you're at today. Is that a true statement?
Yeah, definitely, for sure. And there was a lot of reaching out. There was a lot of looking up to mentors. Hey, can you come on? Can you give us like soundbite 30 minutes? It's really casual. We do a lot of them over Zoom now. And there's definitely some of that pressure to keep it going. The beautiful thing about podcasts is that they never go away. So if you ever want to access the podcast, you can always go. You can click rewind. You can and listen to it as many times as you want. Take notes and
go back 5 years. Go back 5 years and watch
exactly.
Yeah,
exactly. And that's the amazing part of it. So it's always there. It's available for everybody. So that's the great thing, and that's kind of what people like. What I try to tell people that that lecture at conferences or something, and they're looking to get involved more and come on podcasts. I'm like, hey, listen, you had to kind of hope that somebody showed up there for the conference or for this. This is like an opportunity that you can, speak to everybody.
Yeah, that's right. No, it's great. So, okay. So you started this podcast, you got all this great information. You went to residency. You're an orthodontist today. And how many, you didn't associate very long, did you? You went right into ownership.
Yeah.
Is that true?
Yeah.
So give me the timeline there. So that, because that's not normal, but let's talk about that. So graduated when?
Yeah. Graduated in May of 2023. Yes.
A minute ago. And then
8 months ago. Yes.
8 months ago. And then you bought a practice when?
A month ago.
That's awesome.
Yes. In August.
All right. So now
October,
you are a practice owner. So you went right from school to now. The thing about that is you went to residency, and so that's the X factor. A lot of folks take a couple years to get their hand speed up and figure out the business and work for some corporate to learn from their mistakes. I always say it's a great training ground, but you went through residency, so that was kind of your training ground. And so then you went right to ownership. So I want to tap into all that. But before we get into ownership, because I'm going there, of course, this program's about buying practice. We're going there. I want to tap into all the things, all those emotions, all those thoughts about, and you're the 1%er. Let's be honest. You're ambitious. The four of you are super ambitious and started this program. But I do want to understand and have a conversation about is there an expectation? What are the conversations at school when you're year 3, year 4, even in residency? Is it all about ownership? Is everybody I want to buy, or I just want to be an associate? Does everybody want ownership? Is that a thing?
I don't think everybody wants ownership, nor is it for everybody, from what I'm understanding from people that have just been in the dental field for, 20, 30, 40 years.
Agreed.
I think it's something that, is definitely, we speak about in dental school. There's clubs that you can join. And also, of course, the adjunct faculty that are out there teaching you. A lot of them do have private, well, some of them are, depending on what school you go to, there are some experienced
practice
faculty that were practice owners in their previous career. So it's definitely something that's talked about. I think that there is a little bit of a journey before you get there. For the most part, like as you said, you might be taking a job with, maybe a corporation, or you may be taking a job with a private practice opportunity that you may have. And then maybe, you kind of figure something out ahead, with the senior doc. And maybe you take over that senior doc's position somewhere down the line.
Yeah. But like people are having that conversation in school. Like
100%.
They're
100%.
like, hey, I want to own. These are my goals. Like business is starting to become. I'm just curious. I'm asking. Business is starting to become a thing in dental school. Yeah.
There are a couple of business courses that you take in your final year. We have one at Florida. And again, when I say like this is back, 4 or 5 years ago. So, so I'm not sure what, if a lot of other schools are doing that. I can only speak to the experiences that I've had personally.
Right. But ASDA and
there's definitely some, if you're out there looking for it and you're like, hey, listen, this is what I was born to do. I want to become a practice owner. There's definitely there's a plethora of information out there that you can look at, and you can expose yourself to.
What's really interesting, Oni, is that like when I was at B of A, I used to do the pizza parties, hey, I'm Bank of America. I can give you a loan. When you're ready, I'll give you a loan. The insurance people, hey, you need insurance. And by the way, when you buy a practice, you're gonna need more insurance. And attorneys come and talk to you guys a lot at school. Hey, I'm an attorney. When you're ready to look at that associate agreement, I'll look at it. But what they're doing is fishing for acquisitions and startup leases, right? You're being kind of indoctrinated pretty early on, which is great. I find that like even if people showed up at those pizza parties, I would just kind of like look at the room and I'd be like, okay, there's like 2 people in here that are taking this stuff seriously. And then everybody else came for just the pizza. I mean, is that kind of like, I mean, there was definitely some hardcore people that had ownership on their mind, ready to roll. Probably guys like you and gals. It's just really interesting. I'll say this. Look, I went through business school. I went to Ohio State. Little plug for OSU. The Ohio State. Sorry, let me recorrect.
Oh boy.
And look, like I went through business school, and then I got an MBA. And I would say even all of my business friends, colleagues, people that I graduate don't own their own business, but yet you guys have a business course, if you even have one at your school. And I remember a statistic was like the ADA said that I want to say it was like at least 50% of you will be owners at some point in your career. Yet you didn't even have a business course, right? And I went through an MBA course, and I wouldn't say half of the MBAs own their own company. So isn't that like, dude, that's like 4-6 years of business. And most of those people won't be owners. Yet you guys are going through 6, 7, 8 years, whatever, of dental school and maybe 1 or 2 business courses. And you have to seek that out. Should that be part of the program?
I definitely think that there should be, business courses incorporated within the curriculum for dental schools, residencies. I mean, it's very important. There's like you said, like a lot of people that are a lot of dentists, like there's a high percentage of them that will become a dental owner, at some point in their career. So a lot of, I think it might be going down a little bit from what I'm seeing in the chart numbers in terms of how quickly dentists get into ownership. I think it's just moving back a couple of years.
I think that's a good thing. That's a healthy thing.
I mean, it's really
meaning. Let me make sure I'm understanding. You graduate, the opposite of you. You graduate, and it's taking longer to get into ownership.
That's what I believe. So yes, and we can go down the whole student debt thing, but I think that has a huge part of that in terms of just kind of postponing ownership, because I think the average debt Adia put out was like $287,000. Yeah, for ortho, I think we're like 500 to 600. I think that's like the average.
Yeah, that's crazy.
That people are graduating with. And it's a lot of money. So people are like saying, okay, hold on, let me go to the employer that's going to pay me, 10, 15, 20% above. I'm going to work a little bit harder, maybe see a little bit more patients. And then you go from there. And then maybe, 3-4 years when you're a little bit more comfortable and you want to seek ownership, or you kind of have to make the decision. Maybe I like this working Monday through Thursday, Monday through Friday. I like my current hours. I go home. I don't have homework. I don't have to deal with, all the business stuff, so to say, that you were talking about earlier. And, and I think people are moving towards that.
Yeah.
People are moving towards that, the work-life balance, and just trying to figure that out a little bit more.
I'm bouncing around in my head a little bit on this. And I think this is a great, let's hold here, because I think this is a really great conversation. I think if you want ownership, to me, and I hear you on the debt, I do. I'm an ex-banker. I'm comfortable with debt. Debt's like what you do. If you want a business, you get a loan. You want a house, you get a loan. If you want out of the business, you sell the business, you get the money back, it pays off the debt. If you want to sell your house and get out of debt, there's assets that pay off the debt. It's called a balance sheet. You have assets and you have liabilities, right? And so if you take out debt, yeah, you have debt, but you also have an asset that clears it out. So to me, I look at debt differently. Student debt doesn't have an asset other than a piece of paper. Now, I'm not saying that's not worth something. It absolutely is. You have to be an orthodontist to do orthodontics.
Yes.
Well, that's not true, but you get what I'm saying. You have to be a dentist to do dentistry. And I guess what I'm saying is if you want ownership, I would challenge to press on it quicker. You're 2 months in, 3 months in, you're of ownership ish, right?
Yes.
Yeah. You haven't felt the gains yet. You're all in the stress mode right now. So I can't ask you this, but if you were to ask an owner that's been in it 6 years, they're going to be like, oh yeah, I mean, I wish I did it sooner. You're just not there yet. It's going to take you 2-3 years, but
yeah. And yeah, I think the numbers also do show that. And, I was just sitting in a lecture from Chris Benson from Benson Koppel and Associates, and show that
great
people that
CPA firm, right? Yeah.
They do a whole bunch of transitions and stuff like that and acquisitions for orthodontists. And they talk about, like, what do the numbers look like if you're working 30, 40 years as a W-2, 1099, or what does it look like, and how does that compare to owners?
Right. And it's a dramatic difference.
It is a little, it is a difference.
But what's interesting about that is if they didn't look at the 20-year deal, and if they looked at like delaying 2 years. I just did a presentation, and if you delayed it just 2 years, I did like some math, and it was a $200,000 net worth gap, maybe more. I mean, that's not crazy, but like it's probably more. And there were it was a very conservative model, but like
compound interest over 30, 40 years. I mean,
that didn't include that. So you take $200,000 over what a 15-year career, 20-year career, that's over $1 million, I bet. So, and that's just a 2-year. So I'm not saying get in, be dumb and just jump in, because it's not, I think you said it, it's not for everybody, but I would say if you want ownership, do it sooner. And I love that you did it real quick, because look, you just jumped in, you've got all this great information from the podcast. You're prepared, dude. It's going to be hard, but I love that you did it. Are you any regrets?
And with that being, no, zero regrets. With, with what you just said as well, like, yeah, you can come in, you can talk to all your mentors, you can go through the list of podcast hosts that you've had. You can talk to, listen to other podcasts, listen to, YouTube videos. But at the end of the day, like, there's just going to be things that you're going to learn, and you can't learn it without going through it.
That's right.
So anybody that's listening in, that's about to go through it, I just want to let you know, like, and you've probably said this on your show before, it's like, it's just something when you go through, you will learn everything about it.
Mm-hmm.
And there'll be some hiccups here and there, and that's okay. That's part of the process.
That's right.
And it's impossible to learn everything up front. And I think that's something with our personalities as, dentists. We're like, for the majority, we're type A's, and we're like, hey, we're used to like having to score really good and high on tests, and every single question you get wrong, it's a deduction. And so like, we're kind of very,
perfectionists.
Yes. We're drilled like that, no pun intended, and so that's how we feel. And that's just not the name of the game here. Like, there's just going to be learning on the fly, and you got to learn how to manage it. And that's just, I'm speaking from somebody that's only been in it for a little bit. And I consistently just have to remind myself that.
Dude, Dan, my producer, take that sound bite, and I want that to be the short clip, because look, business is not perfect. It's just not. Like I'll be super transparent. Next Level had banner quarters this year. Banner. Third quarter hit, not so much. We retracted. Mm-hmm. It's inevitable. You don't hit banners every single quarter. It's not realistic. And so when things do contract, that's where growth happens. When you mess up, that's where growth happens. And I'm not trying to be a dorky consultant right now, but it's true. When you go through a hard time, you see that growth. And so you got to go through some hard times to see that growth. And you're probably right in the midst of it. And what's really interesting is you're the pinnacle of having so much information, which is why this is a really interesting conversation, because I probably won't find another person out of the four of you four, another person that has learned and heard really great stuff for as long as 5 years of your podcast. And you had to do it. It wasn't you, but you had to do it to keep your podcast up. And yet, you're only going to learn something when you're ready to learn it. So here you are, you went through the process. Shoot, how many times did you interview a guy like me that was an acquisition or a startup expert? Many, many times before you went through it. But when you were going through it, you needed that information. Mm-hmm. And so like, it's really interesting. And even a guy like you that had all that information, I guarantee you went through some hardship through this process. Yeah.
There's just things that are going to pop up. Like there's just things. Of course you do the best you can to just, lower the amount or, make sure they're not major hiccups. You know what I mean? And thankfully we haven't had any major hiccups. And, and you talk about this on your show, I'm sure. It's just, you got to make sure you surround yourself with a great team around you, and, people that are experienced, such as yourself, that are going to come in and be part of the deal and say, hey, listen, like, you should maybe look out for this demolition clause in the lease. You know what I mean? You should maybe just look at the options, things that are just so very like just vital to the deal. Yeah. And what are we going to know? I mean, we just graduated dental school and we graduated residency. We're busy learning all this stuff so we can treat our patients to the best of our abilities. Yeah. And at the same time, like, no, I mean, what was it, Henry Ford that said it? I mean, like, you just hire the smartest person in the room for that particular thing, for that particular job. So
or subject. That's right.
That's like, I don't need to be the person that's going to answer every single thing. Like, let me find that person that's going to go at it and help me facilitate this responsibility or this duty that I need to get through.
It's trust though, right? Onni, like, it's trust, because you're so on point. I'm imagining Joe Biden in this moment of time, forget politics, but when there's a crisis, they lock themselves down in the room, and we've all seen the movie, And there's a bajillion people in this room, and I don't even know what it's actually like, but the movies make it sound like there's 50 people in the room, right?
Mm-hmm.
Why? Because he or she, hopefully someday, is in the captain's chair and they have to make the decision, but they can't make a decision without all these smart people in all these different departments, right? That's an extreme of what we're talking about. But all those people in the room didn't get the job to be in their chair, to be an advisor to the president if they weren't great. They've earned that spot. And so I don't think I think everybody listening to the program that's considering ownership or whatever, startup or acquisition, I think everybody's heard what you just said is you need great people. Let's talk about like how does an advisor like myself, I'll learn something from you today. Maybe you're going to give me something today. How do you gain that trust? Because it's about trust, right? It's about trust. So how, like what are us professionals need to do to be better for you guys to trust? Because we're all asking you for some money, right?
Yeah.
We're all asking you for some money. So what's that advice? Yeah.
And, I think just for me, it's something that needs to be vetted out. I got to have a couple of personal referrals, probably most likely just kind of, okay, I heard about this guy Dinsio from a couple of people, went through the process with him. Okay, how was it? Yeah. I'm very, very big on that. And then, kind of feel him out on the phone or in person. And, I'm kind of old school like that. I'm very like slow to pull the trigger, and honestly that could be one of my biggest weaknesses. I'm slow to pull trigger on things, and I'll kind of just take my time, and until I kind of like feel comfortable or I feel like I'm making the best move, like I'll talk to a couple of people. Yeah. And that's the biggest thing to kind of earn my trust. Okay, Dr. Jones just went through this acquisition process. Okay, who was your buyer rep? Yeah. Okay, yeah, Dinsio. Yeah. Okay, how was your I won't like ask, but like, okay, it just ends at Dinsio. Okay, what was your experience? Yeah. And if they come up with a good experience and I really value that person, I'm not going to ask people that I don't value their opinion, right? You're not going to ask, you're not going to ask opinions of people that you wouldn't trade your spot in life with, right? If that's just kind of like how I live life. And so if there's somebody that I'm looking at and I'm looking to hire, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to ask for somebody that's kind of vetted out, and then that's how I kind of find myself getting comfortable. Yes. It could be different for other people.
Yeah. No, I think that's spot on. So it's it reminded me of a book I read, and it's called The Influence, Science, and Practice. It's by Robert Cialdini. It's basically I was looking it up. Yeah. It's basically the psychiatry or ecology. My sister's a psychiatrist. I'm probably using that.
She's going to come after you if she listens.
She's going to kill me. I hope she's not listening. Of influence. It's the art of influence. And one of the principles is someone else saying something about you. And that's what you're talking about. And what's really interesting about that? I'm taking it back to dentistry. So I appreciate that. Have people that are saying good things about you, and all that good stuff. So that's huge. And I agree, definitely do that. I don't think people follow through with my references. They always ask, and then I don't think they actually ask my references. It's like, ask them, or just read my Google reviews or whatever. Yeah. But bottom line, I love that what you just said, but it's reminding me of the principles of influence by Robert Cialdini, and he talks about all the principles, and one of them is if you get somebody to say something great about you, people are more likely to believe that person, not the person that's saying it. And what's interesting about that is that's the same thing with treatment planning, and dentists don't realize that. A lot of you guys don't. And if you're trying to increase your case acceptance, your dental assistants in your case, your hygienists for GPs, have to back you up and talk to the patient, the same, diagnose, pass the power. Power needs to be passed back to the front office. Everybody is backing you up. and it's a psychology, I think.
Yeah.
Isn't that right?
I agree with you. I mean, just think about it. Like, dentistry is a very personal profession, I guess, not I guess, it's definitely personal. You're in someone's mouth, like you're right in front of their face. And, a lot of people will ask their friends and family, hey, who do you recommend as a dentist? Right? When you go to a restaurant these days, what's your first thing? You never been to the restaurant. You have your phone in front of you. You're looking up like, okay, what are the Google reviews? What are the Yelp reviews? Right?
Yeah.
Like, is this place vetted out? So I think that's just kind of like where this world's kind of going.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's how
no, that's great. You need a great team. Sorry for that. I digressed on treatment planning and art of influence, but
and it's also the opposite for that as well too. If you're, you see your assistant's doing a great job, you see like your TC's doing a great job, go ahead and hit them with some positive affirmation and say, hey, just want to, Mrs. Smith, you're doing great today. Mrs. Smith, you did awesome. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Do that in front of the patients as well too. Just kind of, it's all around team building.
I love that. That's a great tip. All right. So back to our program, that little treatment planning.
Yeah. You're going to have a tough time to figure out a topic for this episode.
No, I really didn't have a grandiose strategy here other than I wanted to tap into you. So we're kind of at that place where I want to talk about the acquisition itself and kind of where your brain's at today, because like, look, we kind of touched on it. Ownership isn't for everybody. I did want to say that, like, if you're feeling the pressure of ownership, don't find that right job, make your money, put in your time. Ownership's challenging. And that's kind of where I'm going with this is now that you're through the process. Well, first, what were some of the pitfalls, challenges of your deal? Probably a similar to a lot of deals, or was it crazy streamlined because you had great advisors? It's okay if it was perfect.
Well, I kind of want to preface with, I think Collier and Associates says this, and I got to give a shout out to Preston Miller. He honestly just texted me this out of the blue, like right before I was, starting to think about this whole acquisition process. And you're just like, the most important thing in business and in life is what's more important than the deal is the person you're in the deal with. And so for me, again, we go back to honesty, we go back to trust. What we were just talking about a few minutes ago is like, if I felt comfortable with the person that was selling the practice and you kind of just hit it off, that was very important to me. And, there's so many deals out there, right? And I knew that there was going to be a transition period. And, you hear about you listen to your podcast, you listen to NDP podcast with Charles Loretto, and they, consistently talk about, okay, these are the pitfalls. This is where you're going to see, this might not work out. You hear from the lawyers, you hear from the CPAs, the people who do the evaluations. Yep. And for me, the most important part was, okay, if I'm going to engage in this process, which is not 2 weeks long by any means, I want to do it with somebody that I felt that I trusted and that was very honest. And I have been blessed with that, to be completely, transparent. I've been blessed with the person that I've been transitioning with, and they have been absolutely amazing. And I couldn't have asked for, I don't think I could have asked for a better transition, person to transition with, which is, and you kind of just, you talk about it all ahead of time. And, there's just so many things though. Not everything makes it into the contract, there's just some things that you just got to be like, hey, I'm going to let this go. Like, all right, there's, I don't know, I'm just bringing up an example. There's this lab bill, like, all right, we didn't talk about it. Let's just go 50-50 on it. Or maybe, this person takes the loss on this and then you take the loss on the next one. Like, and honestly, that, just finding that right person, you're not going to always find that right person. I from, other talks that I've had and, just hearing stories and, way more than me. No. Yeah. And I just feel very blessed and lucky, honestly, to have been able to meet the person that I've met.
Couple things on this, Onni. I keep thinking about this. So a couple things. Meet the seller. It's important.
100%.
Across the table, you know who you're dealing with. Whether you really hit it off or not, at least you know.
Mhm.
Doesn't mean that the practice is not a good buy if you're not like best friends with the person.
Yeah.
The other thing is Oni's a ortho, so that's really important in the transition because these are referral sources sending the seller opportunity.
Great
Ortho's going really direct these days, similar to pedo and GP, but there's still a ton of referrals coming in. So for any of you that are in specialists, that's a must. What he just said, that's a must. GP, not so much, but it would be definitely great to have that kind of connection. So I love that tip. And I did want to touch on another thing. Oni's super mature. And I say that because business mature. I don't know about you personally. You might be super immature personally. Onni.
Could be. Depends on who you ask.
but from a business perspective, he's mature because he said, if you heard it, not everything makes it into the contract. And there's just some things that you have to be cool about. I think a lot of my clients in this next generation think it's a zero-sum game, a win-lose game. And it doesn't exist. My job
is farther than the truth, honestly.
Is right. It is. I mean, these are two people, two business owners, and you might have the idea that the seller's made all this money and it's my turn and I'm due, and I don't have any money and he or she's got a ton of money, so they should take the loss. No, we're all people and fair's fair. So just be fair.
Yes, 100%. I think if you think that you're going to go in and try to win on every single little thing, there's going to be unhappy person at that point. And I don't know. For me, that's not how I roll. Or I would like to think that I don't roll like that, but that's just kind of my thoughts. And listen, everybody's a human being at the end of the day. Like there's a lot of things going on in terms of psychologically, mentally, emotionally, physically with, selling or buying a practice. Like there's that a lot as well. And hey, listen, like, I don't know, you know a lot more deals that go down. Some are, just, hey, business is business type of deal. And, I get that from a standpoint too.
Yeah.
But you're right. You do make a very good point in terms of like orthodontics. Like I'm seeing some of these, let's say if a patient started a month before the acquisition happened, I will see that patient, a year and a half, 2 years, 2.5 years, could be even longer. Yeah. So it's like just making sure that, the transition goes well and that person that's in it with you is, your cheerleader too. And you want to be their cheerleader as well.
Yeah. 1,000%. On the legal side, I'm going to drop this. Onni said that not everything makes it to the contract. That's true. A lot does make it to the contract. Let me put that in perspective. If it is in your contract, because I've had a lot of deals where stuff was in the contract and then it was breached or a broken agreement. The funny thing is again, the type A's, the perfectionism, the unbusiness mature person. Oh, he broke his contract. They took I don't know. They didn't pay for a lab case.
Yeah.
What are you going to do? Are you going to take him to court over $1,000? No. So just because it's in the contract, folks, does not mean that common sense that post close, you're going to take someone to court. I have literally had clients where all of this was buttoned up in contracts. I've had sellers steal almost the whole team. I've had people take a chair post close. I've had a sterilization center taken in the middle of COVID, a transaction that happened right after COVID, and they took the sterilization and put it in their other office. I've had all kinds of stuff, straight contract breach, straight up. And the buyers almost every single time are like, the hell am I going to do? I'm going to take them to court over $1,000 and it's going to stress me out and it's going to, they end up buying the stuff. I mean, that's lit. Yeah. So when you're across the table from the seller, just like Onni said, it's really about that feel, right?
Yeah. And honestly, and I'm a big feel type of guy. I don't know if my wife really likes it. They're like, why do you feel like you need to get along with the person at the, with the hostess, or like you feel like you need to get along with the waiter, or like, I'm just like, hey, like, I don't even realize it.
Yeah.
Why do you feel like, hey, you're going to buy a car? Why do you feel like the guy or the gal has to give you like a good vibe? Like, why does it matter? It's a transaction. And she's an attorney. So like, she's wired like that. So, and it's funny. I'm the same way. My dad's the same way. I probably just got it from him.
Yeah.
And,
that's great.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's a skill set though,
man.
That's a skill set.
I don't know. There's probably some cons there's definitely cons that come with that.
Yeah. There's strengths and weaknesses, right? The type A's have a lot of strengths, but there's a lot of weaknesses.
100%.
Making slow decisions, a lot of weakness in that, but a lot of strength too, in some ways. And then, we go through a behavior assessment, and I'm way over time here. So Onni, we're going to shut this down soon. I could interview all day, but we do a behavior analysis, which is called DISC. If you've ever heard of it, a DISC. And what you're describing, I bet you're a high I. Are you a high I? Have you done DISC analysis?
I haven't done it. I've done a couple of other ones that do like colors and stuff.
Okay. Yeah. So there's a lot out there. There's different ones, but you're a high I, and that trait is that you want to connect, and you're an influencer, and you like to, you build relationships through that. And there's like, you can influence people with an I, but a lot of people don't have I, maybe your wife, I don't know. And it's hard for them to influence, but they're very detailed, very compliant, very, and there's again, a lot of strength in that too, but a high I and a high C in this case, are almost different spectrums. So she's probably like, what are you doing? Are you flirting with that waitress? But really, that's not what it is in your head. It's probably just, you're trying to do a transaction with somebody.
Exactly. And it's good to probably have, have the high I's, the D's, the D's, the I's, the S's, and C's, it's like, you just want to make sure you have a well-balanced team.
That's right.
And I heard a lot of people, when they get bigger teams, they make them annual basis, go ahead, or if they're hiring, they go ahead and take that.
We do
the personality tests, or the trait
behavior
tests, and the behavior test. Sorry.
Yeah.
And so, and then just kind of hire off that, or just see what they need to fill in.
That's right. We do at Next Level. That's exactly what we do.
Awesome.
So great tips. Well, my friend, any last little bits of the audience that's listening to me and my show, folks looking to buy or jump over to the Startup Uncensored, folks, if you're a startup person. But like, any last kind of tidbits of your journey or the acquisition itself that you want to give?
Yeah, sure. If you want to be a business owner and you're financially in a position to do it, you're never really in a financial position to do it, right? Because you went to dental school, you got $300,000, $500,000, $600,000, $700,000 with a debt. Mm-hmm. And I just kind of look at that not as like an expense, but more like an investment. But if you know you want to be an owner, right, and you are moving back to your hometown, and your wife's family's there, your family's there, your brothers and sisters, and you're moving back to this area, and you want to be an owner, just go ahead and just kind of put some feelers out there, talk to a bunch of people. It can get a little hairy with some non-competes, so just try to think about that on the front end. If you do hop into an employment agreement, just kind of think about what those non-competes look like, draw those radiuses out, and say, is this good for me? Is this not good for me? That was a decision just kind of I needed to make early on. It was like, okay, South Florida is a very packed, a very dense area, and so a lot of the non-competes were, a lot of miles, and they had 3, 4, 5 locations from these places. What your typical job will look like, and maybe you hop around, at least for orthodontics, if you're working in that realm. And so you just kind of have to say, okay, what is my exit strategy? What is my game plan? Where do I want to be in 5 years? And so, I'm kind of rambling here, but it's just something to consider. It's not as easy as like, okay, I want to hop into ownership. I'll just take this one job, and then, I'll start looking for leases and agreements after that. Just look in what your non-compete is. I think that's very important. And then just hire the right team, get the practice evaluated. If there's no evaluation, get it done. It's worth it. Hire an attorney. It's worth it. Hire an accountant, people that are going to go ahead. And I know it's hard. It's hard to write that check. Mm-hmm. I have a consultant too. I have a coach. Trust me, it's hard to write that check, but at the end of the day, I just came out of residency. I don't know everything. I'm very well aware that I know a little bit.
This coming from a host of a podcast for 5 years, been listening to professionals for 5 years, and he's still admitting, again, that maturity. He's admitting right now that he still doesn't have it all.
I need you to tell this to my wife, honestly, so that I'm mature. So, but
let's have your wife on the show next time.
Yeah, right. Maybe as an attorney.
There you go.
But that's it. Like, and
that's
if you're
great.
gonna go do it, you can do it. Like, you can do it. Feel free to reach out. You know, we're on Dental Student Podcast. You can find us in pretty much any site. You can DM us on Instagram. If you have any questions, I'm more than happy to help out. Like, and just the trials and tribulations, just like you went through dental school, just like you went through residency. So you can do it. I believe in you 100%. The information is out there. Go ahead and find it. Podcasts make everything so available. YouTube University. I'm a big student on that. So yeah, you could do it.
Dude, I love that. That was inspirational, folks. If you doubt any of that, you're crazy. And watch this. Watch this on YouTube. You can see his conviction and he that comes from the heart. I can tell, and he cares about you guys, and just like I do. And so follow him on his Instagram, follow us on our Instagram, check it out on YouTube, all the things, guys, all the things. And if you are thinking startup, jump onto the other one. Just a little reminder, Next Level Consultants is a consulting firm that helps you guys do all this stuff. We make sure people aren't doing the wrong things before ownership, and then making them successful post-close. So we would love to be in your presidential table like we talked about earlier. So,
and those mistakes can cost you a lot more than what it costs to hire this team. That's like a huge thing. So, maybe it costs a few $1,000s here and there, but some of these mistakes can be very, very big. And
it's funny. We'll shut it down on this one, but it's funny. Like, I don't want to go back to the client and say, gosh, like I just saved you $5,000 in that. Cause that's kind of like egotistical, but you almost have to, like, if you go through the process super smooth and nothing hurts you, dude, that means that your team did such a great job. Oftentimes those clients don't realize that savings, but they do realize that savings when something does go wrong and they didn't hire an advisor.
Yes. Yep. And you know what camp you want to be in when you have those two options. So.
Exactly. All right. With that being said, my friend, this has been fun, man. And thank you for your time. It's an investment in your time and mine, and I appreciate you. All right. Without further ado, let's shut this bad boy down.
Tune in next time for another truth-filled episode of Acquisition Unscripted. We want to hear from you. Interact with your host, Michael Dinsio. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Comment and subscribe.